Welcome to SheYC. My sister-in-law came up with that. I did not. If you don't know, this is not an unfamiliar spot because my husband Earl has. That's all I got. That's what it says. Has been conducting CYC here forever. 25 years this year. I'm doing a little shameless plug because I can. And this is the 25th year. I think registration just opened like last week, maybe? Last week? So hopefully that's something that your young people can come to, that you can encourage them to be a part of if they're not. And at this point, we've got like the next generation. So some of you that came when y'all were in high school now have kids that are coming. And that's crazy, but amazing. And God is good. God is just good. And I want to just let you know where I am. And because I think it's important. I'm in a season of gratitude. And I'm a crier, so these eyelashes are probably going to come off, but, it's okay. But, you know what I mean? I think gratitude grows godliness. And it's hard to be upset about things when you're grateful. It's actually impossible. Because the same part of your brain that's got that anxiety, the same part of your brain that's going to hold that tension and that what if, is the same thing that is used when you are grateful for something. So you can't be anxious and grateful at the same time. So put that in your pocket, because next time you start feeling anxious, thank God for something. Thank someone else for something. Be thankful. Gratitude grows godliness. I want to do an exercise with you today that has helped me a lot, if you'll go with me for a second. So you can close your eyes, you can keep them open, do whatever you need, but imagine that you're comfortable and you're seated and you're in a room and there's a door there. And someone that you love very much, past or present, comes through that door. And they come over to you and they take both of your hands in their hands and they tell you that you are loved. You are a child of God. You're not broken. Nothing about you needs to be fixed. You're worthy. You're wanted. And then they put all of your hands, all four of the hands, to your heart. And you feel that love. You feel the love that they have for you. And you feel peace. And you feel comfort. And at times, when you need that, you can put your hands to your heart. And you can feel that. And you can feel their love for you. Because so many of the things that we're telling ourselves are not peace and worth and comfort. And words are important. Words are so important. You're important. The things that you say about yourself, about others, the things that you say, period, are so drastically important. I was 6 years old when, for whatever reason, I asked my mom, well, I know what reason. I'm a planner. Who's planners? Yeah. I don't know my personality type, but I know that I'm like a planner. Like, make the list, And then if you, have something that's not on your list, but you did it anyway, you go back and write it in so that you can... Good. I'm not the only weird one. Yeah. But I asked my mom, I said, what do you think I should be? Let's have a plan. And she said, I think you should be a teacher. So why should I be a teacher? And she said, because you're patient. I don't actually think I was patient. I really don't. I don't think that at 6 years old I was patient. She said, but teachers have to have a lot of patience. Amen? Some of y'all don't teach middle school because that was weak. I'm just telling you, you have to have a lot of patience. Yeah, middle schoolers, they don't even like themselves, so they're not going to like you. It's a tough time. Y'all be patient with them. Oh, my heavens. You got to love them. Oh, you have to love them, or else you'll kill them. But Mom said, I think you'd be a good teacher. Huge impact on me. Huge impact. I mean, what do I do? That's what I do now. She validated a positive trait and then kind of set me in this path. My father is a minister, and he said growing up, his mom Used to call him her little preacher boy. That's what she said. This is Sammy, my little preacher boy. Little preacher boy. I mean, the things that you say about yourself, the things that you say over your children, the things you say about your friends, about your preacher, about your elders, it has such a huge impact. And you don't even realize our words impact our beliefs, our behaviors, and ultimately our lives. And when we speak negatively about ourselves or others, our words trigger chemical and electrical activity in the brain that connects that person with the words that we have said to describe them. With repetition, that connection becomes encoded as fact. We begin to believe those statements to be true, whether they are or not. Remember how I said I probably wasn't patient, but she said I was? We unconsciously seek out evidence to confirm them and dismiss evidence that contradicts them. This is known as confirmation bias. Look it up, because really smart people are saying this, not me. All of this happens without your conscious awareness. It's just your brain's way of processing the information that it gets. It doesn't fact check. It just processes what it hears. And this is how a simple statement like, I'm anxious or I'm fat, can profoundly affect your mood and the way that you actually are. It turns your current mood, thought, or feeling into your identity. And this is why self-defeating statements shape your life. And you can change it by simply saying, I'm having anxious feelings, or I'm a little bit bigger than I'd like to be right now. A small shift in the words that you choose can make a huge difference in how you feel and how you live. Words are such a big part of what I talk about every time I get the opportunity to speak. And the first time that I really realized how big of an impact words have was when I looked at the story of David and Goliath. You can kind of be moving over to 1 Samuel. It's about chapter 17. So before David goes to Goliath, he goes to Saul. And Saul's kind of dismissing the fact that David can do anything. I mean, none of his great warrior champions have suited up and gone out to meet Goliath. But David is saying that he can. And listen to what he says to Saul in verse 37. The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the bear, he will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And then I want to look at verse 45. So David is speaking it. He's like, no, this is going to happen. God is going to deliver me. God's going to make this happen. In verse 45, remember, I'm skipping, y'all know the story, I'm assuming. If not, go back and read it. It's in this chapter. If you remember, Goliath is like cursing and like making fun of David. And listen to what David says. You come to me with a sword and spear and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you. And this day I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, and all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Did David know that was going to happen? Nothing in 1 Samuel tells us that God came to David and said, I'm going to do this. It wasn't a prophetic thing. David is saying, I know my God can do this. I know this is what's going to happen. This needs to happen for the Israelites. And I know God's going to let it happen. And then what happened? Exactly that. Knocked him down with a rock. A rock. A little rock. I mean, if God can use a rock, he can use me, right? Let's look at 2 Corinthians 10, verses 4 and 5. It's going to be posted because I go fast. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but might in God for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity, into the obedience of God. Words are important, and words come from our thoughts first, and then they come out of our mouth. Words are life-giving. Your words are important. You are important. And I want to explore how important you really are, because I see things and I hear things that make us feel like, that our body is not anything. But that is so against Christianity. That's so against what we're taught in the Bible. Look at 1 Corinthians 3:16. I'm going to go really fast because I teach middle school, and it's like, you have to like rapid fire or you lose them. So it's the way we're going. Y'all can look at the screen if you can't turn there. 1 Corinthians 3:16, do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you? Flip over a little bit to 6:19 through 20. Or do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have from God, and you are not your own? For you were bought with a price, so glorify God in your body. I don't think we fully have our mind around that. This is God's dwelling place. It's God's dwelling place. He is a part of you. 1 Peter 2:9. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. But do we believe that? Do we feel royal? Do we feel chosen? Do we feel called? And as Kathy mentioned last night, I had y'all write those little sticky notes last year. Nobody's name was on them. No one put their name on them. And we didn't need to, but the board, the ladies that helped me run this thing and helped Pam and I with this, we sat down after the conference while we were still here. We read every single one of them, and we prayed over every single one of them, all 900. And we just kept saying, unworthy, unworthy, unworthy. That's not what my Bible's saying, though. That's not what I'm getting from here. So where's that coming from? When we were, I was excited about some things when I got married. I'm just going to say that. I was excited about some things. And one thing that I was excited about, everybody's attention. Yeah. One thing that I was really excited about was that I was going to wake up and there was going to be somebody there with me, and that I was going to go to sleep and have somebody there. Because I am a people person. I like humans. I do, for the most part. And so there's a few middle schoolers, but for the most part, I really, really like humans. And so I was very excited. Because it's just like safe feeling. Do you know what I mean? Just me? Y'all? Okay, so I was thrilled about that. And it was not maybe a month or two into the marriage that Earl, was not coming to bed. And I was like, okay, whatever. And so I started questioning him, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you staying up so late? And he's like, JJ, it is a Mary Tyler Moore-a-thon. Now, there's a little bit of an age gap between us. So I had never heard of this person. And I'm like, we already got problems in the marriage. Who is she? And I looked cute back then. This is some, you know what I mean? What has she got? And so he was like, no, it's the Mary Tyler Moore show, and Nick at Night has got a Mary Tyler Moore-a-thon. What does that mean? Because I was not a huge TV watcher, still am not, but Mary Tyler Moore was a show that he loved. And so he was rewatching all the episodes, like start to finish. And how do you think that made me feel? I was very jealous. Like, number one, here, it's a girl, that I've never met or seen. And, he's spending his time, he's using that energy or that downtime with her and not me. There's a little bit of jealousy there. And you may have, I don't know if you have husbands that golf or whatever, and they'll spend the whole day Saturday doing that. And now, I know some of y'all are like, no, I want them to. They need to go do that, right? Let them go golf. But, there's times too that you're a little bit jealous, that you kind of want them to be with you or be participating in things that you're participating in. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with God. Look at James. And if you know me, we're going to go to James 4. I took a year and I read the entire book of James every day for a year. Now, that is not impressive. It takes 12 minutes. But I urge you, do that. If you can do that, it is life-changing. The book of James is practical Christianity, literally step by step, how to be a Christian. And it's just so good. In James chapter 4, I'm going to read the first 10 verses. I don't need to read that much, but I love it so much. What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? You desire not and have not, so you murder. You covet and don't obtain. You fight and quarrel. You don't have because you don't ask. You ask and don't receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. You adulterous people, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Or do you suppose it's to no purpose that the scripture says he yearns jealously over the Spirit that he has made to dwell in us? But he gives more grace. Therefore it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinner, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Be wretched and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned into mourning, and your joy turn to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will exalt you. God is jealous of what we are allowing in our life that has nothing to do with him. Am I right? Think about that, though. Every aspect of your life, it's the same thing as a marriage relationship. That kind of feeling that you get when, wait a second, you're supposed to be with me. This was our deal. You're supposed to be here, but yet you're spending that energy somewhere else. So let's take a look at our stuff. Let's take a look at our friends, our words, our entertainment. And let's start asking, is this worthy of me? This is hard. This is hard because not so much like TV, not TV shows or TikTok. That's easy for me. You know what's hard for me? Sometimes the people that are in your life that are not necessarily really godly are so much fun. Right? I mean, I'm just being real. I'm being honest with you. And that's hard. It's hard to say, you are so much fun, and I love you so much, and you're such a good friend to me, but you are not influencing me positively, and I'm trying to influence you positively, and it's not working. And that's the only kind of friendship you need to have really close. Either you're becoming a better Christian because you're a close friend with them, or you're helping them become a better Christian, and that's like chartable. You can see it. Otherwise, they just need to be acquaintances. But sometimes that fun and that entertainment and that tea, you know, the ones that spill the tea and all that kind of stuff, they're so fun, but they're not good for you, and they're not the best thing. I've told the story before. When I grew up, where I grew up, in that town, in that school system, everybody cussed. Everybody, teachers, administration, it was not a thing. And this is back in the 1900s. Everybody was doing it. Yeah, I mean, it was already, I know it's a thing now, but like back then. And so it took me, public school, it took me so long, like years, to get those out of my head. And I didn't do it. I didn't cuss. I don't. But it took years to get those things out of my head, for them not to be something that popped into my head, you know, if I broke my toe. Yeah, I have a broken toe right now. Or something like that. So I'm not going to allow a movie or something, or little reel or clip. I'm not going to be okay with that getting back into my brain, because I worked so hard replacing those words that I didn't intend to put in my head. They were just a byproduct of who I was around, right? Are we picking up what I'm putting down here? Are you understanding that who you're around is influencing you? That doesn't stop when you're a little kid. That proverb is not just for kids. It's even more so as adults. So can we purpose to consider everything in our lives and deem it worthy or not? And when I was in high school, there was a family that is amazing family, and they had 3 boys that were amazing Christian boys and beautiful humans. They were not ugly. And the youngest one was graduated with me, but we didn't go to the same school. But we knew him really, really well. And so he was very well known. They all were, but he was extremely popular. Everyone knew him. They were just the absolute perfect boys. They, played all the sports. They were good at everything. They were kind to everybody. They were godly. They went to every youth rally. They went to everything. They were just, as I said, beautiful people to look at aesthetically. Just a perfect home, right? Just the ideal. And this youngest one would go to the parties, but he took a 6-pack of Pepsi. We didn't have Coke Zero at the time, but he took a 6-pack of Pepsi with him, and it was, widely known that he did not drink. He didn't drink, never, not a drop. But he went. We called them keggers. I don't know what they're called now, but he went to those parties, and he's like, I can't influence them if I'm not there. That was his thing. Well, you can check him out on Facebook today. He is 18 years sober. Don't tell me you don't get influenced by who you're around. Don't tell me you don't, because you do, and you've got to surround yourself people that are more godly than you are. Don't go to places that you're uncomfortable. Just stay away. It's not worthy of your temple. It's not worthy of this. It makes God jealous. Be sure that your actions and what you are allowing in your temple are consistent with the vow that you made when you said that you love God. I'm going to say that again. Be sure that your actions and what you are allowing in your temple are consistent with the vow that you made when you said that you loved God and that you were going to obey God. Is it consistent? Are the things we're watching, the things we're listening to, the things that we're allowing? We have it easy in America. And I know some of you are going through some really hard stuff, and I don't want to discount that. But being a Christian in America is really easy. And y'all can start turning to Hebrews 12, because this gets me. I was going to read a little excerpt from Fox's Book of Martyrs. I don't know if that's ever something y'all have looked at, or Jesus Freaks, or some of the books like that. I can't. I'm a crier anyway. I can't read that stuff about people that have given their lives for the cause of Christ. Hebrews 12, 1-4, you know this. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right-hand throne of God. Consider him who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted in your struggle against sin. You have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. You okay to walk in front of that great cloud of witnesses, those people that gave their life for Christ? Being like, it was just TikTok. You want to let them know that you just weren't getting a lot out of church on Sunday night or Wednesday night, so you didn't really go? Because you weren't getting a lot out of it. You're going to let them know that favorite series you have on Netflix just had a little bit of cussing. Just a little bit of suggestive activity. And we didn't watch it until the kids went to bed. You're going to be okay with letting them know that your child playing baseball was more important than worship? Because what one generation finds optional, the next generation will find unnecessary. You are one generation away from your children not going to church. If you're not there, they're not going to go. It is highly unlikely. We've been in ministry long enough to see that over and over and over. You are worthy of being in the presence of God every day. And I know, and it's not because of your righteousness. Isaiah says that our righteousness comes up like filthy rags, filthy rags. But because of God's righteousness, you are worthy of that. And this is great, but if you're living mountaintop experience to mountaintop experience, conference to conference, camp, whatever, and you're not in this every day, you have missed it, because it's right here too. You get that refreshment, you get that peace, you get that fulfillment. You can get it, but you've got to be in here. You've got to be in prayer. You have to be. It's going to give you the information you crave, the answers, the peace, that feeling when you come to things like this. And you have to be praying with thanksgiving. Philippians 4:6-8 has changed my life. You pray thanking God that he's already worked it out. That's what that says. So if you've got an issue, you've got something you're anxious about, you thank God that he already has it worked out. That's what your prayer needs to be. It is life-changing. You start doing that. Can y'all do that? Write it down, Philippians 4:6-8. It's my favorite thing right now, because I'm telling you, and then you recognize when God actually does work it out, and you can see it, because he's already got it done. You just don't know that. You just haven't seen the end of it. And if you're not sharing, you don't understand that the world is craving. It is craving for something that you've got. Who has noticed that all of these people that are changing their pronouns and all this kind of, and having surgery to change their gender, are now realizing that that was not the answer? No, it's a whole thing right now. They're saying, wait a second, this didn't make me happy. This was supposed to be it, right? Now I'm who I was supposed to be. We have the answer to that. We have the answer. And it wasn't surgery. It wasn't, taking hormones or changing your pronouns and all of that kind of. I'm telling you, people are looking. They're looking, and they're lost, and we've got the answers. How many of you know who Carlos Boozer is? Oh, wow, know your audience, JJ. Not one hand. Okay, well, he plays for the Utah Jazz. He's an NBA player, basketball. And so that's not relevant, really. So Carlos had gotten signed with the Jazz, and this is one of my favorite stories because I just think it just fits into this so well. So go with me on this. He had gotten signed, and he wanted to buy a piece of real estate in LA. And so he does. He buys this, $8.1 million home and, furnishes it and everything. Well, about the time that he got it all finished, it was time to start the season. So he's headed out to Utah, and he's getting all these phone calls because people want to rent his home. They want to, he's going to be out for the season, so they want to rent it. He's like, I'm not renting my home. I've not even lived in it, right? And so his agent calls one day, and he says, Carlos, there's this guy that wants to rent your home for $95,000 a month. And Carlos is like, who is it? And he said, I can't tell you, but are we going to do this or not? He goes, but he's good for it. And he's like, that's a lot of paper. So that's slang for money. I teach high school too. So he's like, yeah, let's do that. Yeah. And so he flies back to LA, and he's there waiting because he doesn't know who it is. And out of this limo steps Prince. Yeah. I don't know if it's Prince or the artist formerly known as Prince or whatever they were at the time. But so anyway, they get the paperwork done. Everything's great. He's excited. He flies back. It's going to be a year. Prince is going to live in that home for a year or pay that money for a year. So at some point in the season, Carlos pulls a hamstring, and he wants to get some therapy done in LA because that's where the best PT was. And so he calls Prince, and he says, hey, listen, I want to run by the crib. That means house. I want to run by the house, check things out. Do you need anything? Is that okay if I come by? Nothing. No answer. No, he calls multiple times. So finally he's like, hey, man, it's my house, right? I'm just going to go by. So Carlos pulls up to what he thinks is his home, and he had put these lions on the gates, these big lion heads on the gates. And he gets there, and there's some symbol, and he didn't know Prince had changed his name to a symbol. And so he's like, wait a second, this is not my house. So he pulls around the block, and he comes back. He's like, well, I'm just going to try the code because this is my address. And so he puts in the code, and the gates open, and he starts down the long driveway, and he sees this purple carpet going up the steps to his house. And he's thinking, wait a second, I did not approve any changes. This is not okay. So he's kind of getting worked up. So he goes, he's still calling Prince, nothing. So he goes in the house, no one's there. They have changed everything. There's purple carpet, there's black carpet, there's red walls, there's pictures of Prince everywhere. None of his furniture's in the house. This is 18,000 square feet of home. Everything has changed. One of the bedrooms is a hair salon. He's made the weight room into a dance club. I mean, DJ booth, every single thing is different. Now, Carlos is not happy at all. And so he's calling, and for 2 months, he was not able to get a hold of Prince. And so his agent's like, or his lawyer's saying, we can sue, but like, who wants to sue Prince, you know? So anyway, finally, one morning, 3 a.m., Prince calls him. He's like, Carlos, listen, I'm in Asia. I'm on tour. When the lease is up, everything will be exactly like you left it. And he's like, I don't know. I didn't agree to this. He goes, listen, I'm going to send you $500,000 to ease your mind. And Carlos was like, okay, that will do it. And Carlos said that the day Prince moved out, the day the lease was up, the house down to the forks looked exactly like he had left it. Everything was perfect. Everything. So, here's my point. Prince came into this place and he said, this is not worthy of me. This is not it. We've got to start doing that and not changing decor. We've got to do that with everything. Is this worthy of me? Is this friendship? Is this group? Is this activity that I'm involved? Is it worthy of being in the presence of God every day? Because God is living in you. Oh, since Prince lived in that home, Carlos then sold it for $12.4 million the next year. Because the worth of that home went up that much because of who lived in it. Do I have to spell that out for you? Who's living in you? Who are you allowing in you? Does the worth of the room increase when you enter? And I don't mean this room. I mean like your kitchen, your classroom, your Sunday school room. Does the worth of the room increase because you come into it? Is your light shining so bright that others can't help but gravitate towards you? In college, I got to learn under a Disney legend, Larry Boyd, not the cucumber. But I was so excited to be under his tutelage because he had been in retirement and he came back because he married somebody like 25 years younger than him. It was a whole story. Anyway, I was so excited to be part of that. And my worth as a music educator was raised because of who was in my life, who I allowed in my life, and who I was able to be a part of. I have gone back and forth about telling this story, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm going to tell you why, because I don't want any negative thoughts about this to diminish how special it was to me. Does that make sense? So I'm just going to tell you what happened. I'm going to be very fast about it, and then we'll be done. So in the 80s, I was diagnosed with mitral valve prolapse. I don't know if that's a real diagnosis, but my heart just does weird things every once in a while. But I don't have a heart murmur, so it's not been a big deal, except when I got pregnant with Emma, my second baby. And my heart just went nuts the whole time, so much that I was on a heart monitor, but nothing ever came of it. And so my water broke, went to the hospital. I don't even think I was hooked up to anything. And I just started feeling heavy. My body just felt heavy. And the next thing I knew, and it was extremely normal, no different than what you're feeling right this minute, is I was just coming off the bed. And I remember thinking, I could turn around and look at myself. And I did. And I saw the room filling up. But about the time that I got to the ceiling, there was light all around me. And it was not warm in temperature, but warm in peace. And I felt an extreme sense of peace that I can't describe. That's not even a good word for it. And it was perfect. And I remember thinking out loud, because your soul, what you think with, is still with you. That's still that's you. I remember thinking, because you don't have a mouth, I want to just stay here. I don't want to move. I just want to be right here because I didn't want to move anywhere else. I knew that if I stayed right there in that light for eternity, I was okay. I was brought back, obviously, and it happened again. And this time I kind of willed myself to get there very quickly. And I wasn't there long, but I remember when I came back, I was so angry that I was back. So I want to tell you a couple of things. Number one, I don't think that's heaven. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's so good. It's so good. There's some things I want to say because I think it'll help you if you've had people that pass. I didn't think about my unborn child. I didn't think about my 5-year-old. I didn't think about my husband because I knew that light extended to them. Okay? That light extends to them and it can take care of them better than you can. Does that make sense? So that's not something that you're concerned about. I knew that as long as I was in that light, everything was okay for the rest of eternity. That it was okay. And there's an overwhelming peace that happens immediately. Immediately. It happened both times. The peace just comes like that. Like something you can't describe and something you can't have on earth. It's such a gift, though. It's a gift in one sense, but in the other sense, I have to wake up every day and think, I have to do this again because I don't want to be here because it's that good. And you're worthy of that. You're worthy of that, and not because you're here, not because you're a good person, because Jesus died for you. And that's the answer. If we're asked, why are you worthy to enter heaven? I can't do enough. I can't be enough. I'm not enough. Jesus died for me. That's my answer. And that's why we're worthy. I'm going to leave you with this little poem that I wrote. My worth comes not from the gold on my hand, not from my job, and not from my man. My worth was bought on a ragged old tree on a dark, dark day that would end in victory. My worth is not because of my works, because of the people I've saved or my little quirks. My worth comes from my Father who saw it fit to have a plan and never quit. My worth requires obedient faith, unwavering love, and enormous, enormous grace. My worth can't be bought, for the price has been paid, and through baptism I am saved. My worth, you see, can never come from earthly things, for my ransom was paid by a heavenly king. So one day I'll be asked, are you worthy to pass? And my answer will be, Jesus died for me. Know that you're loved.